Hello, fellow readers. 'Tis I, the Rumpled One. The Marshmallow Test, Mastering Self-Control by Walter Mischel, or Mischel. I'm not really sure how you pronounce his last name. But it's a great book. It's a psychology book, and it talks about the marshmallow test. So I'll just read from the book so you can get an idea. In the beginning, in the 1960s, with preschoolers at Stanford University's Bing Nursery School, in a simple study that challenged them with a tough dilemma. Or it began, yeah. My students and I gave the children a choice between one reward, for example, a marshmallow that they could have immediately, and a larger reward, 2 marshmallows, for which they would have to wait alone for up to 20 minutes. And so basically, that was from page 4, right in the beginning. They wanted to see if the kids would make the smart choice. Would they delay gratification, or would they take instant gratification? And of course, some did, some didn't. But it was the results that those tests, or not the results, but it's the results of those tests what they showed was what was going to probably happen to these kids later in life. The ones that could delay gratification basically lived much better lives. I mean, you know, basically night and day. But there were some other things that they found out by doing the marshmallow test and similar tests. Okay, next we're going to move over to page 36. The power is not in the stimulus, however, but in how it is mentally appraised. If you change how you think about it, its impact on what you feel and do changes. Basically, mind over matter. Hey, I've told you this before in other videos, other book reviews. It's never the thing. It's what you associate with the thing. It's how you perceive the thing. And this, once again, just confirms that. So, the power's not in the stimulus, it's in you. Whether you're trying to quit smoking, lose weight, it doesn't matter. It's all up in here. Let's keep going. Page 85. It is time to put away the how much question because it cannot be answered simply. As the Canadian psychologist Donald Hebb noted long ago, it's like asking, what's the more important determinant of a rectangle's size, its length or its width? This was in response to the nature versus nurture question. You know, is it nature, our DNA, our genes, our environment? Is that what makes us who we are? Or is it how we're nurtured? And so, I guess actually maybe the environment could be part of the nurturing part. But the thing is, it's like he says, what's more important, the width or the height? And what this observation made me realize was that sometimes some problems can only be simplified so far. Because if you try to break it down beyond a certain point, then you get ridiculous answers. You know, and I would say a lot of the social problems that we're seeing as a country might just fall into that category. Because I've said it before, you know, life is simple, but there's some things that can't be simplified. Let's move on. We're going to jump all the way to page 184 now. The dangers and cost of overconfidence are not restricted to the world of entrepreneurship and financial risk-taking. They apply equally to any experts who are optimistic enough to make predictions about outcomes that are subject to change or largely unknowable. In one study, for example, the diagnosis that highly competent physicians made while their patients were still alive in the hospital's intensive care unit were compared with what their autopsies later revealed. Physicians who had been completely certain of their diagnosis turned out to be wrong 40% of the time. So you see, the experts aren't always correct. I mean, I think we know that. But when you can get empirical evidence, statistical evidence that shows this, it just really sheds light on things. Basically, you take what you hear with a grain of salt, do your own research, come to your own conclusion. It's funny though, I saw something on the internet where it says, don't confuse your Google search with my PhD or with my doctorate degree. And I guess there's some validity in that point too. Okay, we're just going to move a few pages now to 189. Whether or not self-control skills are used depends on a host of considerations, but how we perceive the situation and the probable consequences, our motivation and goals, and the intensity of the temptation are equally important. This may seem obvious, but I emphasize it here because it is easily misunderstood. Willpower has been mischaracterized as something other than a skill because it is not always exercised consistently over time. But like all skills, self-control skill is exercised only when we are motivated to use it. The skill is stable, but if the motivation changes, so does the behavior. So you see, it's kind of a two-part problem. Once again, that rectangle, you see, it's not just enough to have the skill, but you also have to have the motivation to apply the skill or use the skill for that situation. So that's why, there's that one book, Smart People, Stupid Choices, or Why Do Smart People Make Stupid Choices? Just things like that. Why is it that somebody who is great at work is just a mess in their social life or their home life? That's the reason right there. And finally, we'll just turn the page to 190. The ability to exert self-control and wait for marshmallows implies neither that it will be exercised in every domain and context, nor that it will be used for virtuous goals. People can have excellent self-control skills that they use creatively for good purposes valued by society. They can also use the same skills to create hidden families, offshore bank accounts, and secret lives. They can be responsible, conscientious, and trustworthy in some areas of their lives and not in others. If we look closely at what people really do, not at what they say across different situations with regard to any dimension of social behavior, it turns out that they are not very consistent. So, you see, those are some of the observations that I really liked in this book. I'd say, I don't know if I'd actually put it on a must-read level, but it's really close. The Marshmallow Test by William Mischel. I suggest you read it.